Last year, on this very weekend, I celebrated both Saturday Masses, the 4 p.m. and the 5:30. I did not have a Mass that I presided and preached at on Sunday. And I share that with you because I'm recycling last year's homily. So in case you heard it before, I know I'm repeating myself, and yes, you did hear it before. And I wrote this some time ago, and last year when I shared it at the Masses, I received so many calls asking for copies. I thought it was worthy of repeating again today, especially since probably the majority of you weren't at Mass last year on a Saturday. And I call these the 10 Commandments for family life. Today we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, of a natural time to reflect on family life and the meaning of family life. And certainly in our culture, in our world, the very definition of family life has changed dramatically in my lifetime at least. And not only has the understanding of family life and what defines family changed within our culture, but the very lived experience of family life has changed, and the stress placed upon family life today is huge. And I think especially in our area where we have so many opportunities for our young people and we involve them in it, it's often at the cost of family life. And so I share these thoughts with you, and you can feel free to reject them because they're my observations after 23 years of the priesthood and what I've observed in families that I have come to know and serve. So the 10 Commandments. Number 1, the family that prays together stays together. How many of you remember that line? The family that prays together stays together. It's an old line. It's really a very truthful line. I mean, I remember growing up myself, our family knelt in the morning and in the evening together at home and prayed together. You know, every meal began with a prayer together. And we went to Mass on Sunday all together. And we went to the Stations of the Cross in Lent and the Marian devotions in May and October together. There was a definite theme in our family of prayer, and certainly our family stayed together to this very day. And so one commandment is really to be a family, you need to pray together in order to stay together. No new news there. And if that means your prayer at meals, your morning prayer or evening prayer together as a family, to sit and read the scripture together, reflect upon it, discuss it at home, to pray the rosary and go on retreat, to have families together go on retreat. Tremendous binding force. First commandment, the family that prays together stays together. Secondly, is really the invitation of the core of the gospel, and that is the simple word love. Parents to love your children, and children to love your parents. And love is not necessarily articulated by what we physically give one another. Love is articulated by the way we treat one another and by the way we serve the needs of others. That expresses love. I am continually amazed as I talk with our younger people, the number of our teenagers who will say, well, I believe my parents love me, but they never say that. And similarly, I'm also amazed at the number of our parents who say, well, my children, especially as they hit the teenage years, they don't tell me that they love me. It's very important to sincerely, not tritely, but sincerely articulate those words daily. Blessing, as I look back in my own families, we told one another every day that we loved each other. Every phone call ended that way. And the last words I spoke to both of my parents before they went home to the Lord. Very familiar words that I loved them love one another and express that in word and in action. Number 3, an instruction for our parents to listen to your children. You know, very often we neglect to see that they sometimes have great wisdom. You know, out of the mouth of babes was another old phrase. Sometimes our young people, when they are very young, are uninhibited by social politeness and speak the God's honest truth, probably at the least appropriate time, you know. And there's a wisdom there. There's a wisdom to listen to our children and to not only listen to them, but to understand who they are as a person and not only direct them to who we want them to become, but to genuinely listen to who they are and to mold them in the values of the gospel. But very important to listen to our children, to what is going on in their lives, to the wisdom that they certainly possess. Number 4, and I think this is very important today, it's been very important for my entire life as a priest when I observe, and more so today than 20 years ago, is number 4, parents teach your children coping skills. You know, we are really failing this next generation because we take away all consequence from them. We do not teach them how to cope with failure. Now, if you're my age, I'm 50, if you're my age or older, if you got in trouble at school, what happened to you? You prayed ardently as you walked home that the school did not call, because if they did, what happened to you? You got in double trouble at home, huh? What happens today? Read my email, because anytime we have a problem in the school, they don't even go to the teacher any longer. They don't even go to the principal any longer. They come to me or to the bishop to complain. Weekly, it happens. And very often when you investigate these things, it's not that the teacher or the school made a mistake or did something wrong. You know, we try to take away all of these consequences today, and we really do need to allow our young people to experience the meaning of consequence, both positive and negative. Consequence is a good thing, too. Positive consequence to certainly congratulate them for a job well done, but when they have genuinely done something wrong, to encourage them and teach them to take ownership for that. It is very important. As educators today, I don't know if we have any teachers here. I know we have a few retired teachers here. I don't know if we have any current teachers here, but I think you'd agree with me. You know, it's a challenge today because very often we have to defend ourselves and our decisions, which are objectively accurate, often from our parents that we serve, from the children that we serve. Why do you think consistently for 2 decades, suicide is the number 1 cause of death, or minimally the top 3, year after year for our young people? Why do you think right here in Williamsville we've had a number in the fall already of teenage deaths from overdoses of drugs? It all is related to an inability to cope. And we're not teaching them to cope with problems and challenges of life. And the reality of it is a day will come when mom and dad can take away negative consequences. And then for the very first time, our young people are going to have to learn to cope. And very often, unfortunately, choose tragic ways to cope with those disappointments. Very key for you as parents, grandparents, for us as a church to teach our children accountability and coping skills. Number 5, and this I've observed over and over, you know, for parents, again, you know, we need parents to be parents, not friends. We need parents to be parents. So often I encounter our young people calling their parents by their first name. I can't even tell you what would have happened to me if I pulled that one off. That would have fallen under the policy, if we brought you into the world, we can take you out, and definitely been the guest of honor at the local funeral parlor. We sometimes err on being friends rather than friendly, trusting, loving parents. And there is a difference to be a friendly parent versus being your child's friend. We really need to understand that role of parenting. And within that role, discipline is necessary. It's not a lack of love by any means, but discipline really is a form of love, correct discipline, of course. Number 6, again for the parents, know your children's friends. Do you really, those of you who are parents, do you know your children's friends? And do you know what and who those families stand for? I remember years ago, I was at St. Amelia's, but it's one of those things I'll never forget. I was at St. Amelia's at the time, and there was a house party going on. It was seniors. The parents were gone. And as we know, somehow magically Santa Claus comes at those moments and parachutes down kegs of beers that line up right up with the chimney, and miraculously, unknown to anyone how, they get opened at these parties, And that's exactly what happened that May night in the city of Tonawanda. And it was about 50, 60 teenagers, as I recall the story. Parents were out of town. And the neighbors had enough, and they called the police. The police came and arrested as many of the teenagers as they could get. And I remember watching the news that day because the judge in the city of Tonawanda held them accountable. And the one young man lost a full scholarship to college to play baseball because he now had this charge against him, and he was convicted of it. And on the way out, the mother, not the one whose house the party was at, but the mother letting the son go to the party, blamed the judge for destroying her son's life. We need to know who our children hang out with. We need to know their parents and those families, and to see what it is that we believe in, values-wise. Do they share those values that we share? And if not, then you have to think twice about allowing many of these things. My parents always told me, and I believe they were absolutely correct, you're no better than the company you keep. So if some of your children's friends come over to the house and you kind of scratch your head saying, I don't know if they really like this person or trust them, that means there's somebody else out there scratching their head saying, I don't know if they really like your son or daughter because they're kind of hanging out with this person. You need to really look and see, know their friends and the parents of their friends. Number 7, and this goes along with what I just said, as parents, you really need to know where your children are at all times. Here we don't have the problem maybe as the city with people walking, but it wasn't just the last week I was coming back to the rectory. I do my grocery shopping at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And, as I was coming down St. Gregory Court, there was a whole group of teenagers just walking down the street. And I was thinking, it's 11 o'clock, and they're just walking down the street. And so it does happen out here, too, in Williamsville and Amherst. Do you really know where your children are? Do you really, check to make sure they are where they are? And I don't mean calling them on their cell phone. I mean calling the landline of the house that they're supposed to be at and seeing if they're really there. Do you know where your children are? Number 8, it is a great practice, and many of you have this practice. Let your home be that place for your children and their friends to hang out in. It's a wonderful thing. A lot of us have finished basements and, family rooms and game rooms. Give some of that space over to the young people. Let them hang out there. Don't stand at the archway or put a glass up to the door to listen to what they're talking about. Give them some privacy, of course, but know where they are. Let them be at your home. Let them know it's a safe environment. Let them know that it is a place that their friends are always welcome. Even if they, mark up the walls and bang up the furniture, it's money well spent to remodel once they move out, huh? You know where they are, and you know that they're safe, and you know that their friends are safe. Number 9, I encourage parents to set standards and goals with your children and not only for them. Now, of course, some standards and goals need to be set by parents. I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking more about career and academics. There is an inordinate push, for college education. And I believe in college education. I'm well educated myself. But not everybody's cut out for college. And many of our young people, perhaps don't have maybe the skill set to flourish at college or university. But they have a wonderful skill set to be a great mechanic and be trained for that, or a tool and die maker and be trained for that, or the many beautiful trades. And I've seen in the lives of so many of our teenagers tremendous frustration because they do have skills that maybe don't fit the college academic market, and they're being pigeonholed and pushed into careers that they're not really designated for. We really need to really see the beautiful talents and trades. They're dying in this country. Tool and die makers, they don't exist any longer. And many of the beautiful trades are dying because many are not even considering that is a beautiful way of life. Hard work, of course, many of the skilled trades, but a beautiful way of life, and needed, very much so, very needed. And we need to take pride along with that in all of our children. It amazes me that in every parish that I have served, every parish is filled with everyone who's graduated at the top of their class, summa cum laude, and have gotten the best of jobs. I never once hear about the student who may be in the 80s or even in the 70s and working real hard to get there. So often we don't brag about them. And I know not everybody's got 100% average in school. And we need to really see where our children are in the various disciplines and truly applaud them for whatever they are able to accomplish. Not everyone's going to have a straight 100 average. And again, the tremendous stress that we're placing upon our young people to perform academically. And they don't hear maybe the accolades if they're in the 70s or the 80s, that they have really worked hard and achieved that. We need to make a note to compliment everyone for the work that they have done. And the last one, most important too, is to simply focus on the family. There was a great commercial, and I probably have quoted it before. It was from Top Supermarket a number of years ago. I don't know what they were selling, but it was a scene of a dining room in a home, and the mother was putting down the tablecloth and pulling out very nice china and silverware, crystal and all that. It looked beautiful table. And in walked her husband and the children. And they all said, well, who's coming to dinner? What's going on tonight? And I'll never forget her answer. She said, a husband without a meeting, a daughter without dance, and a son without soccer. How often do we really spend time as family? And that's very, very important. I do not need both hands to count the number of times that my family did not eat dinner together. 5:15 was dinner every day at 70 Howell, and you were there. And we sat for an hour, and we talked, and we knew each other's lives. We had breakfast together every day, 7 days a week, at 7 a.m. before my dad went to the office and before my sister and I went to school. To simply spend time together as a family, if it be in prayer, if it be playing a board game, and ideally in any other place than passing SUVs and minivans in the driveway, to really, truly spend quality time with one another. You can accept or reject these reflections, but I believe culturally it's where many families are, or certain elements therein families struggle with today. And today, as we reflect upon the Holy Family, we really need to take some note of the family praying together, staying together, the beautiful gift that family life truly is.